In this video, I chat to Attilio from FM Artists about being a DJ manager. We chat about management in general. We chat about his artists, Latmun, Detlef, Foss. We chat about the ins and outs of his role and when it's kind of right to take on a manager as a DJ. Before we dive into this, don't forget to share this with your friends. Give us a comment, things you like, don't like. Really helps us build the content for you. And don't forget to smash the bell. Really means you get the content first and all of our new videos first. We put out 2 videos a week and new music every day. Let's jump in. Hey, it's Graham from Deck Transmission, and today I'm with Attilio. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I thought we'd just let's just talk firstly, like run through your kind of how you got to where you are, what your how you got to your role, what you're about, what you do, and your sort of episode 1 comic book series episode 1 storyline, basically.
Okay. It's quite a interesting journey. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, and started kind of getting into promoting and talent buying out there. And then it was maybe about 6 years ago, ran off to Ibiza, and from there, just really caught the bug for getting into a more active role in music and sort of behind the scenes. And right after that first trip, Nathan Barato approached me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to manage me?" And it was kind of a no-brainer at that point, especially growing up, being a big fan of his, going to see shows in Toronto. Here I am 10, 12 years later from going to those parties, and now I've been managing him for almost 6 years.
Nice.
So he was my first client. Started with him. I had a few other acts that I was working on. And then something interesting happened where Jamie Jones sort of approached him and was like, "Yeah, I want to get this new management company going. Would love to talk to Attilio." And that's sort of how FM got rolling. And then from there it just sort of steamrolled, Nathan, Detlef, Latmun, Carlo Lio. I also look after Foss. So it's kind of been a crazy ride over the last 4 or 5 years.
I bet that's a big roster and lots of people to kind of keep in order as well, and just kind of lots of egos to keep in check, I suppose, and lots of.
I'll be honest. I'm actually super fortunate. None of my artists have any egos, believe it or not. I know
that's lovely
when it comes to DJs or artists in general, musicians, but I'm super lucky, and they really do make my life easy, and they make it really enjoyable to be able to work on them. I couldn't imagine working with an act that just had a massive head, massive ego, just make your life hell every day. And it kind of, I love what I do, and I'm fortunate that I get to wake up every day and it doesn't feel like work, when you love what you do, and the guys do make that enjoyable for me. So it's I'm super grateful for that.
And I guess it's kind of been learning on the job and learning. It's not you've not studied anything to get there. It's just been.
No, it's all been. I like to say I'm in the trenches. I sort of I'm in the streets, and every day you're learning something new. You're adapting. And, don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I had a lot of hiccups over the years, but you learn from them, and that's the number one thing. That if I can give anybody advice is just learn from your mistakes, or learn from the experiences and adapt and figure out how you can get better and move forward.
So I wanted to kind of, obviously from on our channels, there's a lot of young DJs and a lot of people that are just starting in their careers. And I thought we'd really just break down for the uninitiated what you do as a DJ, as a manager, and and maybe how your day-to-day looks, to give kind of a overall feel of what you're doing, what you're up to.
It varies from day to day. I mean, there's the standard, so I pretty much speak to my artists 2-3 times a day. I try to anyways. And it's anything from dealing with touring, dealing with releases, dealing with marketing, dealing with promotions on any tours we have going on, putting out fires, which there's a lot of those. And there's a lot of curveballs that come in, just when you thought the day was running smooth, it's like, oh, here comes this, here comes that, here's missed flight for this. It's a lot of in the back end. You're in the shadows, and you're just trying to make whatever your artist's needs are for that day, that week sort of happen. So there's no real, I mean, for me anyways, I can speak for myself. There's no real sort of set formula on the everyday basis. There's the few things that I do consistently, but every day is different because, like I said, there's something new that pops up every day. So it kind of just varies.
And I guess it's working out strategy for each of your artists and their long games basically, and their long goals, and trying to facilitate making that happen.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely, we try and set up with my artists, we try and set up, targets to knock down, 3 months, 6 months, a yearly plan, and we just try and make those happen. And yeah, it's definitely the long game. Nothing happens overnight. Everybody wants to do this, everybody wants to do that, but you got to take the steps to sort of achieve those goals, whether it be play at certain festival or release on a certain label. There's just steps you got to take to make those happen. Not everything happens on the first shot, so we just got to try our best to make it happen.
That's really good. That's I've kind of been telling the same to a lot of people online as well. So that's really good to hear. That's exactly what you're doing at a much higher level, and which is really great to hear. Basically, so I kind of tell them all the time: work out your length of goal. Where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? And work those steps up the route.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not about getting discouraged. The way I look at every door closed as you is another opportunity to open another one. It's just kind of like you just got to keep going, keep grafting, keep pushing forward, and just ultimately try and reach your goal. And just don't get frustrated if it doesn't happen today or tomorrow or next week, because it'll eventually happen if you keep at it.
And what's the toughest thing you have to do? Toughest part of your week?
Toughest part of my week, to be honest, I don't know if there's a tough part of my week. I mean, I would say like I said, when you get thrown a curveball, so it's, if you have a heavy touring schedule for one of the artists for that week or that month, and then, you get a canceled flight comes in, and then that just, sometimes it could just steamroll because that flight misses another flight, and then you end up losing 3-4 shows out of a tour. I wouldn't, to be honest, I don't know if there's a tough part of my week. I mean, look, it's a heavy day. I start my days usually 5:36 in the morning, and I usually don't shut it down until 10, 11, 12 midnight. So, I mean, long hours, but I also put that on myself. I know it varies for every manager, and they might run their operation a bit different, but I'm sort of an all around the clock kind of guy. And I guess I've put that on myself over the years because I've sort of set it up that way. But I feel like as a manager, if you're not there 24 hours around the clock for your artist, then what are you doing for them? And I also work, what I would say, actually, I work with multiple artists on different time zones, and I'm on usually different time zones. So, it's like right now I'm in Los Angeles, and it's like I have artists in the UK or Europe. So it's like trying to catch them or dealing with their agents on that side of the world, right? So it's trying to keep that sort of schedule and communication open and not sort of lose focus on what we're doing for the day or the week, and not try and get caught up on the time zone difference.
And then obviously working those long hours, how do you keep yourself healthy? How do you keep yourself balanced? How do you,
you know what? I try to keep the sort of drinking and all that to a minimum. But to be honest, I haven't had a drink in 5 weeks, so I'm really keeping that sober, dry January rolling. But it's as best I can. I would say, you know what? In the mornings, I try and do some exercise, whether it be a run, whether it be some circuit training, and try and keep consistent with some food. But I mean, sometimes you just can't control it. The day gets crazy, and you end up eating a cheeseburger.
That's those cheeseburgers, okay. And then a lot of the questions from online have been around the kind of, how do you get a manager? When is the right time to have a manager? When and what are you looking for when you're trying to take on new clients?
With that last question, because that one in particular is kind of my favorite. It's not so much, every artist is different. So you can't, for example, not everybody's a Detlef, not everybody's a Latmun, not everybody's a Foss. Every artist has their own sound, is different personality. I would say for me, one, over anything else, they have to be a good person. They have to be a good person, personally for me, because like I said, I don't want to work with somebody that is just a horrible person, right? And even if they're super talented, you know what? I'd rather pass.
Yep.
So, be respectful, be humble, be super polite to everybody you meet, because you never know who somebody is, that's the number one thing. And then I would say work ethic, be a hard worker. And consistency. I say consistency is kind of like my word for 2019. And it's just like staying consistent. Keep at what you're doing. Don't get discouraged. You just kind of really consistent. And that's sort of the three things I look at. And not every artist, especially if it's a developmental act, right? Because look, there's levels of acts that managers sign. And if it's for the young, like you said, the uninitiated and sort of the up and comers and the guys trying to make their bones in this business, I would say it's a real big thing to just keep in your lane. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Don't worry about what maybe your friend who got signed to this agency or this management company is doing. Just focus on yourself. That's the best advice I could give.
Yeah, my next one was going to be what are the biggest mistakes you see new artists making that you kind of go, shit, you shouldn't have done that. Shit.
You know what? The biggest mistake they make is getting management too early.
Really?
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of managers that might kill me for saying that, but it's just the reality of it, Sometimes acts aren't at a point where they need a manager just yet, or, a manager might not be able to deliver on that act just yet. And yeah, you could build them up and try and work with them. But, artists, sometimes they might get frustrated and the management might get frustrated because, people each had different expectations and didn't go into it with sort of a real understanding of it. But it's one of those, I think, there's a time and a place to sign to management or management signs you. And I would just say, have patience, don't rush in anything, weigh out your options. Look, it's for some artists, if there's way bigger managers than me in this business. And hey, if they get approached by them, I'm sure it's like getting starstruck, right?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, he looks after so, and you want to rush into it, but it might not be the right situation for you. So I would say have some patience and take your time and just sort of weigh all your options out before you rush into anything.
I always see it with management that if you've got to the point where you're too busy, you can't handle everything yourself, then that's when you bring on the extra person to help you.
And you know what the thing is though, it's a funny thing, right? Because the artists say they're like, oh, I want to sign to so-and-so management company with such and such a manager. And then that happens, that situation, like you said, where you have to bring somebody else in to work on them. It might be a little, discouraging for that artist because right away they're getting the feeling that they're getting passed off. Now, not to say that person, the manager's bringing in, isn't going to do a great job, but I feel like it's just kind of, I don't know, they might feel a little bit pushed to the side. So, I personally tried not to rush in anything. I've my most recent signing was Foss, and that was over a year ago, and I hadn't signed anybody for almost 2 years before that. So just try not to bite off more than I can chew.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I guess
and be able to sort of do the work that we set out for the artist and be able to sort of nail it all down without sort of running myself too thin or being an overwhelming situation where I can't deliver for the artist.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes really sense. I guess from if you're signing that rarely as well, then if people really want to be on your agency, then they have to really one shine and B hound you a little bit for maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's, I'll be honest, with our management company, if there's somebody that catches our eye, even if they're a newcomer, we'll keep an eye on it. And the thing is, we may not work together today, we may not work together tomorrow, but could happen down the road, even if they go and have other experiences, if they work out for them, great. If they don't, we can always have that conversation later. So we tend to keep our eye on a lot of young talent. And yeah, we might sign one, we might not, but we always kind of keep our ear to the ground and just keep a close eye.
One of the things I regularly see is people, they make their first track and then it's, I want to get this out there as quick as possible. And I just wondered what your thoughts on that process would be, or whether you, and what you would you advise if they have made, like they get all excited, they've made their first track, and then what should they do next? Would be my question, I guess.
Don't rush into signing it to anybody. Look, if a big boy comes around, not because he's with us, but if like Jamie Jones came along, or Hot Creations, or Elite Boss, Repopulate Mars came along and said, I want to sign it, or there's other DJs who have big labels behind them, say the Martinez Brothers, or Seth Troxler, somebody like that came around, and people are going to jump. And I'd say maybe take that jump, but don't rush into anything too fast. Play it out, get opinions, try and make it perfect. Make more music. Just because you made one song doesn't mean it's your golden ticket.
Yeah.
Just keep making music. Because you'll notice as an artist that what you made in your first track might not sound like what you made in your 10th track. And, you mature, find new ways to change this, and you're like, oh, this I could have changed this, or oh, I don't like that anymore. So I would say, don't rush in anything. That's the number one. Don't rush into signing it to just anybody's label. Set your goals high, set your targets high, and then look, if those don't work out, then you know what? You can sort of chip down the list, not to discredit anybody's label or anything like that, because, I know a lot of people put hard work into their labels, but there's, your top tier, your mid tier, and then bottom tier, like, right? So.
And I guess even if you had one track, then you would need to back it up with consistent other releases afterwards. And if you didn't have that material, then you'd make a little jump forward and then you'd stop, basically.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm guessing that if you did have released one big track and then you didn't have other material afterwards to follow it up with, then you would, your one little leap forward would be, that would all it would be, and then you'd stop moving forward because you didn't have consistent other material.
Yeah, have a load of music. Don't just like, and I see it with my boys. They don't just make one track. When they send me music, they'll send me a file of like 8 to 10. And they'll be like, all right, what do you think of these? Where should we shop them? There's a pool of music to choose from. And like you said, you're not just signing that one song. Or for the new guys, you don't just have that one track. And what if that person who signed your music is into signing more music from you, and then you're just like, oh well, I don't have anything else. And kind of, I don't know. It's a level. It's sort of I guess that comes with experience, or people such as yourself or others giving advice through these experiences and speaking to people where. Yeah, definitely have a stockpile of music. I would say having a stockpile of music it gives you a big advantage over somebody who would just have one song.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's what. Yeah. I'm glad. I think I was thinking the same. I'm thinking the same, which is good. The next thing I was going to say is what. The other thing I notice a lot is that DJs have good releases and good solid release structures, and then that's not turning into gigs. I'm guessing. I'm guessing. My kind of would be, what would your advice be, and how do they capitalize on that situation?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody who I can't mention the name yesterday, but they have over 100 tracks out, and I literally was like, "Excuse me, you got what?" The releases over the years. And they're like, it just doesn't relate into touring for us. And, that's a tough one, because I suppose agents look for something, or promoters, agents, talent buyers, look for something different maybe than managers. And it's a really tough one to sort of give an answer to, because I find that a lot there's some really good, really good young talented producers, but it just doesn't relate into gigs, like you said. And you know what? Part and parcel of that might be they're not out there enough, in the mix, trying to get their name out there. Because look, with music, it's unfortunate, but unless you sort of get it to a certain level on the charts, or certain caliber of DJs are supporting it, it's really hard to get that extra bit of exposure to have promoters want to book you. So I would say, you know what, visit your locals in your cities, you know, try and make a trip out to the ADEs and the WMCs and the Ibizas of the world, and just sort of try and get in the mix. And if you're having a hard time, try and just get amongst your peers and try and get your name out that way, especially if you don't have a team behind you, right? If you have a team behind you, you know, they'll be helping you push that a bit more. But for the ones that don't, I would say the best thing you could do is just get yourself in the mix.
Yeah, I guess having all of the parts in place, I kind of feel like you have your release, you have your socials and your networking, and if one of those levels are not where they should be, that's when you're not going to progress far and quick enough.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, especially in this day and age where you know, the socials and the networking is such a big aspect of what we do now. You really kind of need to have the trifecta of that.
Yeah.
Networking.
Okay, I've got a bit of a lightning round for you. It's a bit of fun, just to ease it up. I think we've gone quite hard, so let's right, lightning round. Right, cat or dog?
Ooh, dog.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Favorite social media?
Ooh, as in what to use?
Which you use the most? Which are your favorite? Yeah.
Instagram.
Favorite music discovery source?
Ooh, data transmissions.
I thought I was going to go like Spotify or SoundCloud or Bandcamp or but yeah, that's cool. Thank you. Favorite mode of travel? I'm guessing you get around a bit, and I'm guessing you've been to a lot of places. So,
Ubers.
Uber. Okay. What's your? I know you said you did dry January. Favorite tipple?
Sorry, repeat that, mate.
What's your favorite tipple? As in drink?
Tequila.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. That's wicked. And then my final one. What are your biggest 3 music industry tips?
Biggest 3 tips. First one I would say is what we kind of talked about. Get out there. Just do your best to get out there. You know, get to every party. And I know it's expensive, right, for some people, but try your best. Get to festivals. Get to events. Get to different, you know, conferences and stuff like that. I would say that is a big thing for the up and comers. You know, it's gonna be a real help for them. And just connecting with people, that is the biggest thing. And you never know what can happen from meeting somebody in a dark corner of a room. You know, I sure know that it's kind of
yeah. Tell me about it. I built a whole business from hanging out in green rooms.
Consistency. You know what? Stay consistent. Work hard. Head down. Focus on your stuff. And lastly, you know what? Just stay humble. Stay true to your roots. Be who you are. Don't try and be, you know, anybody else around you, or don't try and be like another DJ. Be who you are, because you know what? There's nothing better than being original, and there's nothing better than being yourself.
Nice. Thank you very much.